Good morning. It's the 15th of February, the day after Valentine's Day, and I've just pulled over because I was just listening to a really killer song, and I was just doing the school run for my little ones. Hi, my name's Ray. As you can hear, another groovy tune in the background. It's kind of evocative of my upbringing and so on. I'm just checking quickly if I'm still recording. I am. Thank you very much. Hi. Yeah, I was listening to an Empire State of Mind and by Alicia Keys on the way through. And I live in London. This is London. However, having lived and worked in New York, at one point in time, having grown up overseas and gone back in, I used to go through culture shock of the massiveness of and the immensity of a place like New York. But when I went back recently, when I had a little bit more clarity in my life and so on, I really enjoyed it. I mean, and it's definitely a city of massive dreaming, and that's kind of what this particular video and this sharing is about. Is in connection with a series of videos that are part of my journey in fulfilling dreams and fulfilling life and intention and so forth, and empowerment, not only my empowerment but those around me, which of course if I'm empowered and I have anything to do with those around, the intention in that is to empower others as well. I mean, that's a purpose of mine that has kind of goes way back. I've done teaching, I've done coaching, I've worked in social enterprises in places like Africa where poverty is just basically rampant. I mean, serious poverty. And there's other stories of mine that pale in comparison to many people who've had a hard luck story. But I had my journey of challenges that have caused me to stop and reassess, and kind of go through those periods of introspection and personal development, which I think are really key in becoming more self-aware, and also to basically have a genuine a kind of a life filled with a kind of integrity. One needs to do that. One needs to kind of tap into oneself. However, in the journey of empowerment, taking on the new, taking on ways and getting rid of things that possibly disempower. I mean, retraining the mind, refocusing the vision, reconnecting with the inner power of oneself. I think it's really vital that we look to the people that basically that we would want to not necessarily copy, maybe emulate, but uses uses examples of what can be for ourselves. I mean, there are many people out there that do things, and we all kind of have an element of copying. We copy our teachers, our parents, or this, that. There's a lot of not just duplication, but the key point here is taking something and adding your own element and your own flavor and your own value to something that has got your own unique kind of stamp to it, and then going on from there. I mean, there's no sense in having to reinvent the wheel. I mean, that would just be ludicrous. So standing on the shoulders of giants, as challenging as that may be, because those who are giants, obviously they stand extremely strong, have massive stature and so forth. For us to get to that would be great, but sometimes those aren't part of our vision. That might be somebody else's vision. I mean, I would like to leave a positive legacy, particularly for my kids. I mean, that's my intention. And and whatever the size, it's not a scorecard. It's not a score sheet that I'm particularly looking to create, but to add some value is something that I am ascribing to. And believe me, I don't always get it right. I mean, I'm not those people who know me know that I always don't get it right. And in fact, it's those friends of mine who have the patience and understanding and the love and the belief that have either not necessarily stood by me, but also held me accountable, who just don't necessarily judge and blame me, but turn around and say, hey, what up, mate? What are you up to? What are you up to? That's just not on, or you're just not being yourself. Stop being something that you're not. Excuse me. And in many cases, that's what it's about. So we have expectations placed on us by our parents, our friends and family, our loved ones, and even ourselves that we think that they ought to be. When we find out, why is it such hard work? Why is it that it's not flowing? What's happening? Why am I not in my flow? Why am I not in my stride? Why? Or those kinds of questions that may come up, or there's a challenge that's faced. I'm not quite sure how to overcome that. And if you apply old models and techniques and so on, they don't seem to work. Well, you obviously have to change them. I mean, as Einstein often was quoted as saying, is that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I mean, that's insanity. So, so the thing is that life is fluid. It's not static. And so so based on that is we need to be available and open to change. And there are times where we do need to dump the cup that we might have. I mean, as challenging it might be, we don't necessarily have to throw out the baby with the bathwater, but we do need to be sensible of the things that do either empower us or disempower us, and recognize those things and observe them and try very, very hard, because this is ego coming into play, is to not judge. I think the high idea is to be high on friendship and low on judgment, and that includes ourselves. I mean, I'm one of my worst critics, and I'm definitely the toughest on myself when things go wrong, and not necessarily as good as I could be when things go right. And I think we need to celebrate our little mini victories when we get them right, or when things happen and synergistically or synchronicity occurs in our lives. We need to embrace that. And I'm unfortunately I'm one of those people who are who don't necessarily do that enough. And I'm sure as a result of looking at how much I don't do it for myself, the chances are that I probably don't do it enough for those around me as much as I do try. And trying is the key word, is that rather than try, be, do. It's not about doing, but it's just about allowing and enabling. So this idea of that, if we're trying to make that shift, and that major mind shift, inner shift, a major change in one's life, to develop, to evolve, to grow, to enhance, to add value to others, and to ourselves, to have a better quality of life and living, and so forth. I think it's really key that we look to people who are doing that, and not just to emulate it, but in order to get it through. Sometimes we need, we're kind of creatures of habit. We also, repetition seems to kind of be, for some of us, are ways of ingraining. I mean, they talk about, to master something, you need to do it at least 10,000 times to be the master. It doesn't mean that you don't become good at it, and some are better than others because their ability, or their agility, or their flexibility, or their availability, or their receptivity. I mean, it goes on and on and on. But the point is about being open. And in that, there needs to be, for us, possibly an example, or something to look to and go, okay, maybe even just taking a smidgen of that, or looking at something and going, no, actually, that's not how I quite wanted it, or to know what not to do is also very, very key, because effectively that's like feedback, not failure. I mean, unfortunately, my mindset in the past is that when I didn't get things right, I hit myself up against, and it was failure rather than feedback, going, okay, that didn't quite work. And unfortunately, ego gets involved. When we invest a lot, we think, oh, that investment, it's a sense of loss, and that kind of ego gets wounded and it kicks off. When in fact, if we can remove ego, that would be essential. So again, the key thing of the conversation that was recently come about is whether or not we should fake it to make it. And I think it's a tough word to say. I mean, I think copying or emulating and doing things that are largely out of our comfort zone possibly could be faking it. However, if we're feeling down and we force a smile on our face, it comes off as disingenuine. But the more we do these things, the more that, we didn't quite get it right, but we just kind of continue, we plow through, and we commit ourselves to these things. That could be construed as faking it in order to make it. The key point here is that it's like practicing. The more we do something, the better we get at it. It's not about faking it, going, oh, I've got a nice car, meanwhile I live in a shithole or a shanty town. I mean, there are people who do that. Or I've got great clothes, but I basically can't cover my rent. Or, yes, I drop numbers when I'm talking in events and stuff of figures and facts that never actually occurred. I mean, that's lying. That's being false. That's being disingenuous. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about when faking it is tricking the mind, tricking the inner, the subconscious into believing that there is a better way, that you're striving. I mean, when you're trying to break a habit and replace it, not a habit, but replace an activity with something else, we often have to trick ourselves and not just convince ourselves, but it's about redeveloping something that hasn't really been possibly touched on before. And so when it comes to the idea of faking it to make it, that's what I'm talking about, is that doing the things that basically successful people do. I mean, looking to them as an example, or the people who would be, a spiritual leader, or a financial leader, or a community leader, or an athletic leader. That could be your coaches, it could be your partners, it could be your family, it could be business partners, or your cleric, or people that you confide in, best friends. That's what I'm talking about. So, it could be very, stretching ourselves out of our comfort zone, tricking ourselves, not necessarily in a negative way, but possibly just trying to spin something into slightly different. I mean, these kind of negative words again, that's why language is so important, is to really emulate the particular things in a life that one really wants. And so on that note, not necessarily faking it to make it, because then you've made it, but you will know that once you get past that threshold of where it becomes real for you, it's no longer faking it, it becomes real because you will have arrived, you will have meet, and you will be in congruence with that, you'll be in alignment. If you're not in alignment with that, and it doesn't feel right, and you feel that it's not the right thing to do, don't do it. It's as simple as that. If you are in alignment with trying to do something, not just like I'm going to drop everything and sell my soul to the devil, whatever it is that one looks at and says, I'm just going to go out and just step on people to do what I want to become financially successful. I mean, that's just crass, man. So, all we have to do is look around the world of the moral bankruptcy and the civil bankruptcy and the financial bankruptcy of where that didn't work, where greed pervades and it collapses, the communities and economies around us. So that's why people like myself and many others, like 80,000 plus people, are looking for a more empowered world, or working towards a more empowered world, becoming more empowered within ourselves and those around us. Dave and Dave are a couple guys who had that similar vision, who have actually created an opportunity that many of us can get involved in, which I'm aligned with. And there's a vision for a better world. And not to go far into that, but basically these are guys who are doing something that in a particular way that I particularly ascribe to, and so it's new to me, it's foreign to me. It doesn't mean that it's the vision is formed, because there's an alignment, there's a congruence there, but it's a case of that I haven't been as nearly as successful as they're being. So in order for me to get there, I need to look at the things that they're doing, and I need to not necessarily fake it to make it, but to realign, to direct, to kind of remanage my thoughts, my behaviors, my activities, the things that aren't necessarily doing or empowering me in the ways that really could empower me. And that's a journey. So I need to kind of walk that walk in order for that to happen. And that's what this video is all about, is that I encourage you to step out of your comfort zone, to stretch yourself, to get involved in this particular community. Connect with, click a button down below. Join myself and many, many others within the community who are doing just that, who are doing amazing things, and not just making piles of cash, which is possible, but also what they do with that cash and what they go on to do within this. I mean, just that sense of fulfillment that they're experiencing, that joy of being able to do things when they may have thought all was for naught, that they were losing their homes, the families were crumbling, times are challenged, the economy is breaking down, they've lost their job, families are hardship, whatever. Many people as well who are involved are not necessarily come from stories of hardship, but they see the value with which that things can really fundamentally change, and how we view and deal with the world around us to make it a better place. And because I've got kids, that's really important to me, but also that I'm kind of not even possibly halfway through my life, I would like to think. That, of course, I'm mortal, so at one point it'll be over, but I'd like to think that, I'm kind of in a journey of life that I will still be able to benefit the beauties and the joys of the world around us in a better light, as opposed to all the crap that's been going on around us that a lot of us are that are disgruntled with, or seriously upset about. I want to live a life as that I don't necessarily want to escape, that I don't necessarily want to always change. It doesn't mean I don't want to evolve and develop it. I want to live in a world with the level of ease where people are not constantly suffering, including myself or my family or those around, or being in pain because things aren't going the way that they're necessary. I mean, to be able to meet all those bills, or to be able to do all those things, or to be able to provide. I mean, as a father, the idea of providing is a big deal. So in order to do that, looking to the people who are doing that, and then doing what they do. And that's what I mean by faking it to make it, and not to be on that note, to leave on that note, is to make it real. So get out there, do your bit, stretch yourself, get out of your comfort zone, think out of the box. In fact, forget the box, get rid of the box, level that out, flatten it out, and dismantle that box. Even though as a kid it was fun to play in, we're not kids anymore, and this thing, there is an inner child in there somewhere, I'm sure. And yes, life should be playful, but my point is that get rid of the obstacles. In order to get rid of the obstacles, do the things that obviously seem to be kind of causing a lot of flow and creating flow for those around, and do what they do. And on that note, enjoy the journey, have a fantastic day, the sun is shining, and I'm going to go get me some. See you for now, bye.